Ever wonder what $90 million of betrayal looks like? Years ago, my father watched my stepmother beat me during her brutal training sessions, claiming she was just helping me toughen up. Today, that same man signed away our entire family empire to her son and told me to vanish. But they forgot that invisible children hear everything. I have 72 hours to make their empire crumble, and I am not leaving quietly. My name is Harper Nolan, and right now, I am sitting in a chair that costs more than my first car, watching my father toast to the destruction of my life. The air in the boardroom of Nolan Crest Holdings smells like aged scotch and expensive leather. It is a scent I used to associate with safety, with power, with family. Now, it just smells like rot. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the ocean of Silver Point glitters under the afternoon sun, indifferent to the fact that inside this glass cage, a slaughter is taking place, and I am the cattle. Greg Nolan, the man I spent the last 3 years keeping alive, both literally, after his heart scare, and metaphorically, by saving this company from bankruptcy, raises his crystal tumbler. The amber liquid catches the light. "To Logan," he says, his voice thick with pride that feels like a slap across my face. "To the future of Nolan Crest. To the new CEO. Clink. Marissa, my stepmother, touches her glass to his. Her smile is a masterpiece of cosmetic dentistry and malice. Beside her sits Logan, her son, my stepbrother. He is wearing a suit that fits him perfectly, paid for by the dividends I secured last quarter. He nods, looking humble. It is a good performance. If I did not know he spent the last 6 months partying in Ibiza while I renegotiated our debt with the sharks at the bank, I might almost believe he deserves this. Almost. Let me catch you up, just so you understand the stakes here. 3 years ago, I was an architect in Chicago. I was building a life. I had a career that had nothing to do with corporate rating or stock prices. Then Dad got sick. The company, which Marissa had been advising on, was bleeding cash. They called me. They begged, "Come home. Harper, we need you. Family first." So I came back. I put my dreams in a box. I worked 18-hour days. I fired the parasites Marissa hired. I structured deals that pulled this company back from the brink of insolvency. I built this empire back up, brick by bloody brick. And now that the ship is steady and the coffers are full, the family lawyer, a man named Arthur who has known me since I was in pigtails, clears his throat. He does not look at me. He looks at the papers in front of him. According to the new restructuring plan and the updated will, he reads, his voice monotone, 60% of the voting shares, along with the primary estate in Silver Point and the liquid assets totaling approximately $90 million, are transferred immediately to Logan Cole Nolan to ensure leadership continuity. The room goes silent. I can hear the hum of the air conditioning. I can hear my own heart, a slow, heavy thud against my ribs. $90 million, the house where I grew up, the company I saved. And for Harper? Dad asks, prompting him. Arthur finally glances at me, then quickly looks away. For Harper Nolan, a one-time cash settlement of $300,000, title to the old condo on the outskirts of town, and a non-compete clause effective immediately, barring her from working in any executive or advisory capacity within the industry for 7 years. 7 years. They are not just firing me, they are exiling me. They are making sure I cannot work, cannot build, cannot compete. They are trying to starve me out. I look at Dad. He is sitting back in his chair, looking satisfied, as if he has just solved a difficult puzzle. He sees the look on my face. He sees the way my hands are gripping the edge of the mahogany table so hard my knuckles are turning white. And then he says it, the sentence that has haunted my entire adult life. Don't look so shocked. Harper, he says, his voice calm, reasonable. You are not as weak as you think. This is good for you. Everything that happened, everything we put you through, she is helping you toughen up. Marissa. He nods at her, and she preens. It is a phrase that triggers a slideshow in my brain. vivid and violent. I do not say a word, but I am not in this boardroom anymore. I am back in the gym at the estate. I am 22 years old. I am on the mat, tasting copper and sweat. Marissa is standing over me, wearing pristine workout gear that never seems to get dirty. She hired a trainer, a washed-up MMA fighter who didn't know the meaning of holding back. She called it executive resilience training. "Hit her again," she would say. Sipping her green juice, the world is going to hit her harder than that. She needs to learn to take a beating. I remember the bruises that bloomed like dark flowers on my ribs. I remember the humiliation of being forced to spar until I vomited, then being told to get up and finish the set. I remember coming to Dad, showing him the marks, begging him to make it stop, and I remember him looking at his newspaper, not even meeting my eyes, and saying, "Marissa knows what it takes to survive in this world. Harper, she is helping you toughen up." They weren't training me. They were breaking me. They were conditioning me to accept pain as affection, to accept abuse as education. And now they are doing it one last time. The lawyer slides a thick stack of documents across the polished table. It stops right in front of me. It looks like a tombstone made of paper. "We need a signature today to process the transfer," Marissa says. Her voice is light, airy, but if you need time to process your emotions, we can give you a grace period. But be warned, Harper, if this is not signed within 72 hours, the offer of the cash and the condo is rescinded, and we will have to file a suit against you for internal disruption and mismanagement during your tenure as interim director. I stare at her. The audacity is breathtaking. They are threatening to sue me for mismanagement of the company I saved, just to blackmail me into accepting their scraps. Logan leans forward, putting on his best sympathetic face. "Come on, Harp. It is a good deal. $300,000 is a lot of money. You can take a break, go travel, find yourself. Leave the heavy lifting to the men, right?" He winks. He actually winks. The old Harper would have cried. The Harper from 5 years ago would have screamed, thrown the water glass, demanded justice. The Harper who desperately wanted her father's love would have begged him to see reason, to see me. But that Harper died in a boxing ring years ago. That Harper died the night she realized her father wasn't blind. He was just indifferent. I look at the contract. I look at the clause that demands my silence. I look at the non-compete that tries to clip my wings for 7 years. They think they have won. They think I am the same desperate little girl who just wants Daddy to pat her head. They think they are staring at a victim. But the funny thing about being invisible, about being the one who stands in the corner while the real heirs get the spotlight, is that you see things, you hear things. I hear the late-night phone calls Marissa makes to her consultants. I remember the discrepancies in the ledger that I fixed but kept a copy of. I remember the safe deposit box key I found in my mother's old things, the mother they think I have forgotten. I feel a strange sensation in my chest. It is not grief. It is not panic. It is cold. It is a freezing, crystalline clarity. It is the feeling of a weapon being loaded. Dad is watching me, waiting for the tears, waiting for the plea. He wants me to break so he can play the benevolent patriarch one last time and tell me it is for my own good. I sit up straight. I smooth the lapel of my blazer. I pick up the heavy fountain pen lying on the table, a gift I gave Dad for his 60th birthday, and I turn it over in my fingers. Then I look up. I look straight into Greg Nolan's eyes. Then I slide my gaze to Marissa, then to Logan. I do not scream. I do not cry. I smile. It is a small smile, polite, the kind of smile a shark gives before it drags you under. "Okay," I say. My voice is steady, devoid of the tremor they were expecting. The room seems to pause. Marissa blinks, her smile faltering for a fraction of a second. "Okay," Dad asks, confused. "You agree?" I stand up. I pick up the heavy stack of documents. I do not sign them. I tuck them under my arm. I said okay to the timeline. I say, "You gave me an ultimatum. 72 hours. I look at the clock on the wall. It is exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Friday. 72 hours. I repeat, I will give you my answer then. Logan laughs. A nervous sound. What is there to think about? Harp? It is this or nothing. I walk to the door. My heels click rhythmically on the hardwood floor. Click, 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 like a countdown. I stop with my hand on the brass handle and turn back to face them one last time. They look like a tableau of greed. The father who betrayed me. The stepmother who tormented me. The stepbrother who stole from me. You keep saying that. Dad, I say softly, that she was helping me toughen up, that I needed to learn how to take a hit. I pause, letting the silence stretch until it is uncomfortable. Well, congratulations. It worked. You wanted a fighter? You just made one. Let us see who is actually tougher. I walk out. I close the heavy double doors behind me, shutting out their confused murmurs. I walk past the secretary who looks at me with pity. I walk to the elevator and press the button for the lobby. As the doors slide shut, cutting off my view of the Nolan Crest logo, I let out a breath. My hands are not shaking. If you are watching this, if you are listening to my story, do not go anywhere, because this is not a story about a victim. This is not a tragedy. They gave me 72 hours to sign my own death warrant. But they forgot one thing. I spent 3 years fixing their mistakes. I know where the bodies are buried because I am the one who had to dig the graves. And I have a letter in my safe that none of them know exists. A letter that changes everything. They built a $90 million empire on my back. In 3 days, I am going to bring it crashing down on their heads. Welcome to the demolition. The elevator descends from the penthouse floor, and with every floor number that lights up, 40, 39, 38, I feel the pressure in my ears pop. It is a physical sensation, a descent. But in my mind, I am rising. I am floating back up through the murky waters of the last decade, back to the moment I stopped being a daughter and started being a project. My father's voice is still ringing in my ears. She is helping you toughen up. That sentence is not just a dismissal. It is a scar. It is the soundtrack to my entire 20s. To understand why I did not just sign those papers and scream at them today, you have to understand the architecture of my conditioning. It did not happen overnight. It happened in increments, insidious and calculated. I was 22 years old when my mother died. Cancer took her quickly, leaving a hole in the house that felt like it sucked all the oxygen out of the rooms. I thought we would grieve together. My father and I thought we would bond over the silence. But Greg Nolan does not do silence. He does not do grief. He does mergers and acquisitions. 6 months after the funeral, he acquired Marissa Cole. Marissa was sharp, beautiful in a terrifying, angular way, and came from the cutthroat world of venture capital. She did not want to be a mother. She wanted to be a manager, and I was the asset that was underperforming. I remember the first time she brought up the idea of resilience training. We were at dinner. I was still wearing black, still moving through the world like I was underwater. You are too soft. Harper, Marissa had said, cutting her steak with surgical precision. Your mother coddled you. The world is going to eat you alive if you do not build some armor. I have signed you up for a program. It starts tomorrow at 5 a.m. I thought she meant a yoga retreat, or maybe a leadership seminar. Instead, I found myself in a grimy, high-end boxing gym in the industrial district, smelling of stale sweat and old leather. It was a boot camp for female executives, she called it, but there were no executives there, just me, and a trainer named Jax, who had knuckles like bags of walnuts and zero patience. For 6 months, my mornings consisted of physical agony, burpees until I vomited, sparring sessions where I was little more than a punching bag for women 20 pounds heavier than me. Marissa would come to watch on Fridays. She would stand on the mezzanine level, looking down through the glass railing, sipping an espresso. One humid morning in July, I took a hook to the ribs that knocked the wind out of me so hard I thought my lung had collapsed. I crumbled to the mat, gasping, curling into a ball to protect my stomach. My vision swam with black spots. The pain was blinding. I looked up, searching for mercy. Marissa was there, right at the edge of the ring. She was not concerned. She looked bored. "Get up," she said. Her voice was not loud. but it cut through the noise of the gym like a razor. I wheezed, shaking my head. I could not breathe. I said, "Get up," she repeated, checking her watch. "Stand up or you are going to spend the rest of your life being stepped on. Do not look at me with those puppy eyes. This is not cruelty. Harper, this is me helping you. Stop being so weak." I dragged myself home that day with a bruised rib cage and a spirit that felt like shredded paper. I found my father in his study, reviewing blueprints for the marina expansion. I was 22, but in that moment, I was 5. I wanted my dad to see the purple marks on my side. I wanted him to be outraged. I wanted him to tell Marissa to get out. I pulled up my shirt to show him the bruise. "Dad, I cannot do this anymore," I cried. "She is hurting me. This isn't training. It is abuse." Greg Nolan looked at the bruise. Then he looked at me. There was a flicker of something in his eyes. Maybe discomfort. Maybe guilt. But he blinked it away instantly. He took off his reading glasses and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "Marissa is just trying to prepare you for the real world." "Harper," he said, his voice flat. "Business is a contact sport. You have always been sensitive, like your mother." He said sensitive like it was a disease. "But she is hurting me," I insisted. "She is helping you toughen up," he replied, turning back to his blueprints. "The world has no place for soft people. Harper, you will thank her one day." That was the day I learned that my pain was an inconvenience to him. From then on, the training moved from the gym to the office. When I joined Nolan Crest as a junior associate, Marissa became my direct supervisor. She turned my work life into a minefield. There was the incident with the Client Appreciation Gala. I had spent 3 weeks preparing the presentation for our biggest investors. I had the slides perfect. I had the data memorized. 10 minutes before the meeting, Marissa asked to review my laptop. When I got into the conference room and connected to the projector, the files were gone, deleted. I stood there, frozen, while 20 pairs of eyes stared at me. Marissa sat at the head of the table, shaking her head theatrically. "I thought you said you were prepared." "Harper," she said, her voice dripping with fake disappointment, "if you cannot handle the basics of file management, how can we trust you with a budget?" I stammered. I tried to explain, but in the boardroom, explanations sound like excuses. I had to wing the presentation from memory, sweating, stumbling, while the investors checked their phones. Later, when I confronted her in her office, screaming that she had sabotaged me, my father walked in. He did not ask for the IT logs. He did not ask for my side. "Stop making excuses. Harper," he snapped. "Marissa is teaching you to think on your feet. You cannot always rely on a PowerPoint. She is toughening you up." Always that phrase. It became the shield he used to deflect his own negligence. It became the weapon she used to carve away my self-esteem. Meanwhile, there was Logan. Logan, who was 2 years younger than me, did not have to box. He did not have his files deleted. Marissa sent him to networking retreats in Aspen and Tuscany, where training meant drinking aged wine and shaking hands on golf courses. "Logan is a natural," Marissa would say at dinner, beaming at him. "He has that innate charisma. He does not need the remedial work that Harper does." And Dad would nod. "Logan is the face." He would agree. "Harper is the engine room. We need both." I hated them. I hated the unfairness of it. But I stayed. I stayed because I was trapped in the delusion that if I just worked harder, if I just took one more punch, one more humiliation, one more late night fixing their messes, Dad would finally wake up. I thought that eventually, he would look at the bruises on my soul and realize who was actually loyal to him. I thought I was earning my place. I thought I was paying my dues. But the shattering point did not come in the boardroom or the gym. It came at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, about a year before I left for Chicago. I was at the house, staying over because I had been working late on a compliance audit that Logan was supposed to do but had forgotten. I went down to the kitchen to get a glass of water. The house was dark, but light spilled from under the door of the library. I heard Marissa's voice. She was laughing. It was a sound I rarely heard, a genuine, throaty laugh. not the polite titter she used in public. "Oh, please," she was saying. "Greg is oblivious. He thinks I am playing the stern mentor. He actually thanked me last night for building Harper's character." I froze. My hand hovered over the door handle. I knew I should walk away, but my feet were rooted to the cold tile. "No, she is not going anywhere," Marissa continued. "She is desperate for his approval. It is pathetic, really. I can work her into the ground, and she just comes back for more. I need her to run the operations. Dave, you know Logan cannot read a balance sheet to save his life, but he looks good in a suit, and he listens to me." There was a pause while the person on the other end spoke. "Exactly," Marissa said. "Harper is the workhorse, Logan is the jockey, and once the trust is restructured, she will be irrelevant anyway. I'm just squeezing the juice out of the lemon before I throw the rind away." I stood there in the dark hallway, holding my empty glass. I did not barge in. I did not confront her. For the first time in my life, the tears did not come. The anger did not flare up hot and chaotic. Instead, a cold quiet settled over me. It was the temperature of absolute zero. My father was not blind. He was being played, and on some level, he allowed it because it was easier than defending me. Marissa was not trying to make me better. She was breaking me down to build a foundation for her son to stand on. "She is helping you toughen up." The irony was, she actually was, just not the way she intended. In that hallway, listening to her reduce my life to a workhorse needed for labor but unworthy of legacy, something inside me clicked into place. I realized that my endurance was not a virtue. It was my weakness. They were using my hope against me. I crept back upstairs to my room. I did not sleep. I opened my laptop. I did not send a resignation letter. Not yet. Instead, I opened a new folder. I named it Project Iron, and I started writing down everything, every date, every discrepancy in the accounts I had fixed. Every time Marissa funneled a consulting fee to a company owned by her friends. Every time Logan signed off on a vendor without doing due diligence. I was 24 years old. I did not have the power to fight them then. I did not have the money, and I did not have the leverage. So I left for Chicago a month later, ostensibly to pursue my own path, but really to get out of the blast radius while I gathered my strength. But I never forgot, and I never stopped watching. The elevator doors ping open at the lobby level. The sound snaps me back to the present. The receptionist looks up and smiles hesitantly. "Have a good weekend, Ms. Nolan," she says. I adjust my blazer. I grip the handle of my briefcase, where the unsigned severance agreement rests. "I will," I say. I walk out into the cool air of Silver Point. My car is waiting. I am not going home to cry. I am going to the one place my father thinks is just a storage unit for junk, but is actually the tomb of his biggest mistake. The training is over. The match has begun. And this time, I am not the one who is going to end up on the mat. 3 years ago, I was standing in front of a floor-to-ceiling glass window in downtown Chicago, looking down at the city lights that looked like spilled gold on black velvet. Behind me, on a drafting table that was larger than my current dining table, sat the architectural model for the Aurora Harbor complex. It was my baby. It was a $200 million mixed-use development that was going to redefine the skyline, and I was the lead architect, not the assistant, not the associate, me. My name was going to be etched into the cornerstone. I was 26 years old, and I was exactly where I wanted to be, far away from Silver Point, far away from the boxing ring, and finally recognized for my mind, not my endurance. Then my phone rang. It was 2:17 in the morning. I remember the time because the red numbers on the digital clock seemed to burn into my retinas. It was Marissa. I almost let it go to voicemail. We had not spoken in 6 months. Not since Christmas when she made a snide comment about my quaint little drawing job. But something about the persistence of the ringtone made my stomach drop. I picked up. "Harper?" Her voice was high, tight, bordering on hysteria. "It is your father. He collapsed. It is his heart." The world stopped. The Chicago skyline blurred. I gripped the edge of the drafting table so hard I thought I might snap the wood. "Is he alive?" I asked. My voice sounded like it was coming from someone else. "He is in the ICU," she sobbed. "They are operating now. It is bad. Harper, it is really bad." And then, before I could even process the grief, before I could ask about the prognosis or the hospital, she pivoted. It was seamless. Terrifyingly seamless. "And Harper, the banks are calling," she said, the sob vanishing into a frantic whisper. "They are threatening to call in the loans. The liquidity is gone. Greg made some aggressive moves last quarter. If the news of his heart attack gets out before we stabilize the cash flow, Nolan Crest is finished. We will lose everything. The house, the legacy, everything." I felt cold all over. "Where is Logan?" I asked. "He is the VP. He should be handling this." He is overwhelmed," she said quickly. "He is out managing the key investors right now. He is holding the front line. But we need someone to handle the back end. Harper, we need someone who understands the numbers. You have to come home. Tonight." I looked at the model of the Aurora. I looked at the sleek lines of the towers I had spent 2 years designing. "I have a review tomorrow," I said, my voice trembling. "Marissa, I am the lead on this project." "Your father might be dying," she shrieked. "And you are talking about a review? My God. Harper, have you no heart? After everything he did for you?" That was the hook. She knew exactly where to bury it. I flew home that morning. I did not even pack a suitcase. I just took my laptop and the guilt that felt like a 10-pound weight in my chest. When I walked into the headquarters of Nolan Crest, I expected to see a crisis management team. Instead, I saw a graveyard. The offices were quiet. People were whispering. And when I opened the books, the real books, not the glossy summaries they sent to the shareholders, I wanted to scream. It was not aggressive moves by my father. It was a series of catastrophic investments in shell companies and high-risk tech startups, all of which had consulting fees attached to them. Fees paid to firms I did not recognize. But every single one of those deals had Marissa's initials next to the advised buy line. The company was bleeding out. We had maybe 3 weeks of operating cash left. I went to the hospital that night. My father was hooked up to machines that beeped in a rhythm that matched the headache pounding in my temples. He looked small, gray, vulnerable. I sat by his bed and held his hand. It felt frail. "I will fix it, Dad," I whispered. "I promise." The next morning, I called my firm in Chicago. I spoke to Marcus, the senior partner. I told him I needed a leave of absence. A month, maybe 2. Marcus was silent for a long time. "Harper," he said, his voice grave, "the Aurora project breaks ground in 10 days. I cannot have a lead architect who is 500 miles away running a family crisis. You have a choice. You can stay there and save your father's company, or you can come back here and build your career. You cannot do both. If you do not come back by Monday, I have to give the project to Stevens." Stevens, the guy who thought architecture was just stacking boxes, he would ruin my design. I stood in the hallway of the hospital, looking through the glass at my unconscious father. I thought about the training. I thought about how desperate I had always been for him to just look at me and say, "Good job." If I left now, the company would fold. The stress would probably kill him, and I would be the daughter who ran away. "I am staying," I told Marcus. "Then I accept your resignation," he said. "Good luck, Harper." The line went dead, and just like that, the Aurora was gone. My career was gone. For the next 6 months, I lived on caffeine and adrenaline. I moved into a cot in my father's office. I renegotiated $6 million in toxic debt. I fired the incompetent managers Marissa had installed. I flew to New York, to London, to Singapore, begging bankers to give us an extension. I restructured the entire operational model of Nolan Crest, cutting the fat, saving the muscle. And where was Logan? Logan was managing relationships. That meant he was taking investors to $300 lunches. It meant he was playing golf at the country club. It meant he was showing up at the office at 10 in the morning, wearing a fresh suit, asking me if I had handled that thing with the bank yet, and then leaving at 4 to go scout a new location. But here is the sickest part. Here is the part that makes my blood boil even now. Marissa controlled the narrative. While I was buried under paperwork, eyes red-rimmed and hair in a messy bun, Marissa was out there spinning the story. She told the board, she told the staff, she told anyone who would listen that Logan was the steady hand on the wheel. Logan is doing a marvelous job keeping the investors calm, she would say loudly in the break room while I was heating up a microwave dinner. He is such a natural leader. Harper is, well, she is very helpful with the administrative side. She is good at the grunt work. It keeps her busy. She reduced me to a secretary. She took my financial wizardry, my strategic restructuring, the very things that saved their skins, and painted them as administrative support. And when my father finally woke up, when he was strong enough to sit up and listen, who do you think gave him the report? Marissa sat on the edge of his bed, holding his hand, beaming like a proud mother. "We did it, Greg," she cooed. "We saved the company. Logan has been absolute rock. He stepped up just like you always knew he would. He held the investors together. He showed real vision." "And Harper?" Dad asked, his voice raspy. "Harper has been a great help to him," Marissa said, patting his hand. "She has really been a wonderful assistant to her brother. It is good for her to have some structure. I think she finally understands her place in the family dynamic." I was standing right there. I was holding the file that contained the proof of the debt restructuring I had engineered. I was holding the contracts I had saved. But I saw the look in my father's eyes. He looked at Logan, who was standing by the window looking appropriately solemn and heroic, and he smiled, a genuine, proud smile. "I knew you had it in you, son." Dad said, "You are tough. You handled the pressure." Then he looked at me. His expression softened into something that felt like pity. "Thank you for helping your brother. Harper," he said, "I know this high-level stuff is not really your world, but I appreciate you pitching in." I felt the air leave my lungs. "Not my world?" I wanted to scream. "I am the only reason you still have a world." But I did not scream. I was too exhausted, too beaten down by months of gaslighting, and deep down, a small, pathetic part of me was just glad he was alive. I told myself it did not matter who got the credit, as long as the family was safe. I was a fool. The final blow came a week later. I was in my temporary office, a small room that used to be a storage closet because Logan had taken over the main conference room for his strategy sessions. My phone pinged with an email. It was a press release from my old firm in Chicago. Breaking. Aurora Harbor Complex breaks ground with new lead architect. I opened the attachment. There was a picture of the groundbreaking ceremony. There was the model, my model, but with clumsy alterations that ruined the flow of the light. And there was Stevens, holding the golden shovel, smiling like he had invented the sun. I stared at that photo for a long hour. I had given up the defining project of my career to save a father who thought I was just helping out. I had sacrificed my dream to build a throne for a brother who could not even spell liquidity. I closed the laptop. I walked to the window and looked out at the Nolan Crest employee parking lot. I saw Logan's brand new sports car, purchased with the bonus Marissa had authorized for him last week for exceptional performance during a crisis. I did not cry. I think I had run out of tears. That was the moment the sadness turned into something else. It turned into calculation. I realized then that if I stayed passive, if I stayed the good daughter, they would erase me completely. They would take my work, my ideas, my energy, and they would feed it to Logan until there was nothing left of me but a footnote. I went back to my desk. I did not confront them. I did not quit. Instead, I opened the bottom drawer of the desk, where I kept the personal drive I used for backups. I started downloading. Not just the work I was doing now, but everything. Every email where Marissa instructed me to hide a loss. Every memo where Logan asked me to explain basic financial concepts. Every timestamp that proved who was working at 3 a.m. and who was at a nightclub. "She is helping you toughen up." My father's voice echoed in my head. You are right. Dad, I thought, watching the progress bar on the screen reach 100%. She is. I was done trying to be seen. It was time to become the thing they feared most. The person who knows where all the skeletons are. Because she is the one who was forced to clean the closet. That night, I drove past the construction site of a rival development. I sat in my car and made a promise to the ghost of the architect I used to be. I will build something again, but first, I have to demolish this house of lies. The email subject line had read, "Strategic Planning Session." That was the first lie of the afternoon. I walk into the conference room expecting a whiteboard filled with quarterly projections, or perhaps a discussion about the new zoning laws in Silver Point. Instead, I find a tribunal. My father sits at the head of the table. To his right is Marissa, looking like the cat that not only ate the canary, but also inherited the canary's estate. Next to her is Logan, checking his watch as if he has somewhere more important to be, and at the far end, looking miserable, is Arthur, the family attorney. There are no projection screens. There are only 4 stacks of thick bound paper on the mahogany table. "Sit down." "Harper," Dad says. His voice is not unkind, but it has that specific, hollow timbre he uses when he is about to deliver bad news. It is the same tone he used when he told me my goldfish died when I was 6. I take my seat. The leather is cold against my back. "We are not here to discuss strategy, are we?" I ask, keeping my hands folded on the table. "We are discussing the future," Marissa corrects smoothly. "Specifically, the succession plan. Your father and I have been doing a lot of thinking since his health scare. We realize that life is short. We need to make sure everything is settled." Arthur clears his throat. He looks like he would rather be undergoing a root canal without anesthesia. "Arthur, please," Dad says, gesturing to the documents. Arthur opens the folder in front of him. He does not look at me. He focuses entirely on the legal jargon, using it as a shield. Pursuant to the irrevocable trust restructuring and the transfer of assets agreement dated yesterday. He begins, reading rapidly. Greg Nolan has decided to designate Logan Cole Nolan as the primary beneficiary and controlling shareholder of Nolan Crest Holdings. I feel a physical thud in my chest, like a heavy book dropped on a floor. "Go on," I say. My voice is steady. Arthur continues. "This designation includes the transfer of 70% of all voting stock, the primary residence known as the Hilltop Estate, the Silver Point Marina commercial properties, and the chain of boutique hotels currently operating under the Crest brand. 70%, the house, the hotels, and the rationale?" I ask, looking at my father. Arthur pauses. The document states that this division reflects the board's confidence in Logan Cole Nolan as the, quote, fresh face of the brand, and acknowledges his innate leadership potential and ability to handle high-pressure public relations. Leadership potential. I look at Logan. He is trying to look solemn, but the corner of his mouth is twitching with a suppressed grin. This is a man who once called me in a panic because he did not know how to convert a PDF to a Word document. "And what about the remaining 30%? I ask. Arthur finally looks up. His eyes are apologetic. The remaining equity is to be retained by Greg and Marissa Nolan for their retirement. However, the agreement creates a separate severance package for Harper Nolan. Severance, not inheritance. Severance, like I am an employee being let go. "Read it," I command. Harper Nolan will receive a one-time cash payment of $300,000. Arthur reads, "Additionally, the deed to the property located at 42 Elm Street, the Cypress Creek condominium, will be transferred to her name, free of mortgage liens. The condo, it is a rundown 2-bedroom unit on the edge of town that we usually rent out to college students. It smells of damp carpet and mediocrity. $300,000. That is less than the bonus Logan got last year for simply existing. There is a condition attached to this package," Arthur adds, his voice dropping an octave. "Of course there is. To receive these assets, Harper Nolan must sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement and a non-compete clause." "Read the terms," I say. The non-compete forbids Harper Nolan from working for, consulting with, or founding any entity in the real estate development, architecture, or construction management sectors within a 500-mile radius of Silver Point for a period of 7 years. 7 years. They are not just cutting me out, they are burying me. In my industry, 7 years is a lifetime. They want to make sure I cannot go to a competitor. They want to make sure I cannot start my own firm and crush them. They are terrified of me. I reach out and pull the contract toward me. I flip through the pages, the paper sounding loud in the quiet room. I see the sections Arthur did not read aloud. The text is dense, but the intent is clear. Clause 14b. The beneficiary agrees to refrain from making any public or private statements that could be construed as disparaging to the reputation of Nolan Crest Holdings, Greg Nolan, Marissa Cole Nolan, or Logan Cole Nolan. Clause 15c. Any breach of these terms will result in the immediate forfeiture of the cash settlement and the property, and will subject the violator to litigation for damages. It is a gag order. I look up. Why? I ask. It is a simple question. Dad sighs. He leans forward, clasping his hands. Harper, look, we know you have worked hard, but let us be honest. You are tired. You burned yourself out saving the company. You are not built for the long haul of corporate warfare. I saved this company, I say, my voice rising just a fraction. When the banks were ready to foreclose, who sat in the room with the auditors? Me. When the Westline project was about to be shut down, who found the zoning loophole? Me. Logan was in Cabo San Lucas posting pictures of his mojitos. That is enough, Marissa snaps. Her sweetness evaporates. Do not be petty. Harper, it is unbecoming. I am not being petty. I say, turning to her, I am being accurate. You are giving the empire to a boy who treats the balance sheet like a suggestion. Logan is the future, Marissa hisses. He can handle the pressure. He does not crumble. He does not cry. I stare at her. He does not cry because he has never had to. I say cold as ice. Marissa smiles, and it is the ugliest thing I have ever seen. Exactly, she says. And that is why he is the CEO, because he is tough. Unlike some people who spent their 20s weeping in a boxing ring because they could not take a little discipline. The room goes dead silent. I look at my father. I wait for him to defend me. I wait for him to say, that is not fair. Marissa, Harper went through hell for us. But he does not. Greg Nolan looks me in the eye, and he delivers the eulogy for our relationship. Marissa is right about the temperament. Harper, he says, you have done what needed to be done for the family. You were a good placeholder. But now it is time for you to live your own life. With that money, you can go anywhere. You can paint. You can travel. You do not have to fight anymore. I feel a laugh bubbling up in my throat, bitter and acidic, a placeholder. And then he says it, the final nail. Don't look at me like that, he says, seeing the darkness in my face. You are taking this too personally. All those years, the training, the hard times. She was helping you toughen up. If we hadn't pushed you, if you hadn't gone through those years, do you think you would have the backbone to sit here today? You should be thanking us. We made you strong enough to handle this rejection. The world tilts on its axis. He truly believes it. He has rewritten history in his head so that his negligence and her abuse were actually a favor. He thinks that by stripping me of my inheritance and my career, he is giving me a gift. He thinks I am unbreakable because he broke me himself. In that second, the last thread connecting me to him snaps. If he can justify the bruises of my past as love, then he can justify starving me in the future. There is no negotiating with this. There is no pleading. If they want a war, they are going to get a nuclear winter. I close the folder. I place my hands flat on the table. The anger that was boiling inside me suddenly cools into something solid, something sharp. I look at the contract again. I see the spaces for the signatures. I see the date. And I remember the box in the warehouse. I remember the letter from my mother. I remember the clause about ethical misconduct in the original founding documents of this company, documents they think are lost to time. I remember the emails I downloaded. I stand up. I am not going to sign this right now. I say. Logan scoffs. Come on. Harp, do not drag this out. You have no leverage. It is this or zero. I look at him. He looks so confident, so assured of his victory. He has no idea he is standing on a trapdoor. I need time to review the non-compete with my own counsel. I say, 72 hours. Dad frowns. Harper, the deal is on the table today. We need to file the transfer by Monday. 72 hours, I repeat. That is Monday afternoon. Marissa narrows her eyes. She senses a shift in the atmosphere. She is a predator, and she knows when the prey stops running. Why do you need 3 days? She asks suspiciously. If you are planning some sort of media stunt, read the NDA again. We will sue you into oblivion. I smile. It is the first genuine smile I have given them in years. I am not planning a stunt. Marissa, I just want to make sure everything is correct. After all, if the transfer of assets is going to be this significant, we need to be absolutely certain that the company's valuation is accurate, that there are no hidden liabilities, no off-book accounts, no safety violations in the construction records that might void the insurance policies. I let the words hang there. Safety violations, off-book accounts. I see Marissa's back go rigid. I see a flicker of panic in Logan's eyes. Just a flash. If everything is clean and fair, as you say, then you have nothing to worry about, right? I ask, my voice soft. Surely, a company run by such a natural leader can stand up to a little scrutiny. Greg looks between us, confused. He does not know about the Westline safety shortcuts. He does not know about the shell companies. Of course it is clean, Greg says, blustering. What are you implying? I pick up my purse. I am not implying anything. Dad, I am just reading the fine print. I turn to the lawyer. 72 hours. Arthur, I will bring my answer to the office on Monday at 2 o'clock. Until then, the papers stay unsigned. Harper. Marissa starts to stand up, her voice sharp. I do not let her finish. I turn my back on them. I walk out of the boardroom. I walk out of the office where I slept on a cot for 6 months. I walk past the awards cabinet that holds the trophies I won for them. As I step into the elevator, I check my watch. 71 hours and 59 minutes. I take out my phone. I have one call to make. It is time to open the box. It is time to let the ghost of my mother speak. The drive from the Nolan Crest headquarters to the edge of Silver Point takes 40 minutes. As I drive, the scenery changes from glass-walled skyscrapers and manicured palm trees to rusted chain-link fences and warehouses that smell of low tide and diesel. I park my car in front of a facility called Safe Harbor Storage. It is an ironic name. There is nothing safe about this part of town, and there is certainly no harbor, only a stretch of industrial wasteland. My Aunt Claire, my mother's younger sister, told me about this place years ago. It was at the funeral. She had pulled me aside, her eyes red but her grip strong, and whispered that my mother had moved some things out of the main house a few months before she passed. She did not want Greg to sanitize everything. Claire had said, she wanted to keep some things just for you. Unit 4B. Here is the key. I have kept that key on my keychain for over a decade. I never used it because I was afraid of what I might find. I was afraid it would just be old clothes that smelled like her perfume, and that the grief would paralyze me. But today, grief is a luxury I cannot afford. Today, I am looking for ammunition. I slide the key into the padlock of Unit 4B. The mechanism is stiff with rust, but it turns with a heavy clunk. I roll up the metal door. The air inside is stale, thick with dust and the faint, unmistakable scent of lavender, my mother's scent. The unit is small, crowded with boxes stacked almost to the ceiling. There are old lamps, a velvet armchair that my father hated because it was too vintage, and stacks of art books. I start digging. I move a heavy crate of vinyl records. I shift a garment bag containing her wedding dress. My hands are dirty. My blazer is getting dusty, but I do not care. I am looking for something specific. Claire had mentioned a safety deposit box made of wood. I find it buried under a stack of architectural magazines from the 90s. It is a simple cedar box, the kind you might keep jewelry or letters in. It has a small brass latch. I do not have the key for this one, but the wood is old and dry. I take a tire iron from the emergency kit in my car and gently pry the latch. The wood splinters with a dry crack, and the lid pops open. Inside, there are no diamonds, there are no pearls. There is paper. I sit down on the concrete floor, ignoring the cold that seeps through my trousers. I pull out the first stack of documents. They are brittle, yellowed at the edges. I recognize the handwriting immediately. It is sharp, looped, frantic. My mother's handwriting. I start reading, and the world around me falls away. These are not diary entries. These are ledgers. These are drafts of contracts, and they are all stamped with a name I have never heard before. Harperstone Capital. I flip through the pages, my heart hammering against my ribs. I see dates from 30 years ago. I see bank transfer records. I see a founding agreement for a company called Nolan Construction, which would later become Nolan Crest Holdings. I always thought my father built the company from the ground up with a loan from his father. That was the family myth, the self-made man. But the paper in my hands tells a different story. Capital injection, $2 million. Source, Harperstone Capital. Sole proprietor, Eleanor Nolan. My mother paid for it. She did not just decorate the office, she bought the land. She funded the first 3 projects. She was the silent partner who provided the liquidity when my father was just a contractor with a dream and a charm that worked on everyone but the bank. I dig deeper. Why did I never know this? I find a document titled Private Shareholder Agreement. It is dated 2 years before she died. I read the legal jargon, translating it in my head. To protect the market confidence in Greg Nolan as the face of the company, Eleanor Nolan agrees to hold her 51% stake through a blind trust, Harperstone Capital, effectively giving Greg Nolan voting proxy as long as, and here's the part that makes my breath catch, as long as the company operates under the ethical guidelines established in Schedule A. She owned 51%. My father has been walking around acting like the emperor, but he was just the steward. And then I see it. At the bottom of the box, beneath a blueprint of the very first building they designed together, is a thick cream envelope. On the front, in her unmistakable script, it says, "To Harper. Open only if you feel the walls closing in." My hands are shaking so badly I almost tear the paper inside as I rip it open. It is a letter, and behind the letter is a legal addendum. I start with the letter. My dearest Harper, if you are reading this, I am gone, and I fear that things have gone wrong. I love your father, but I know him. He is a builder of glass towers, but he has no foundation. He craves admiration the way you crave oxygen. He is a good man when he is winning, but when he feels small, he is vulnerable to anyone who makes him feel big. I stop reading for a second to wipe a tear that has escaped. She knew. She knew about Marissa before Marissa even existed. She knew his weakness for flattery, his desperate need to be the patriarch. I built safeguards. The letter continues. I never told him the full extent of the Harperstone clause because I wanted him to feel like it was his empire. I wanted him to be proud, but I need you to know that I did not leave you defenseless. You are my daughter. You have my eyes. But more importantly, you have my steel. Do not let him, or anyone he brings into our home, convince you that you are weak just because you feel things deeply. There is a document attached to this letter. It is a dormant clause in the original partnership. It states that if the proxy holder, your father, demonstrates a pattern of ethical negligence, nepotism that endangers the solvent nature of the company, or allows the abuse of the company's assets for personal vanity, the blind trust is dissolved. I pick up the attached legal document. It is heavy. It is real. Upon dissolution of the trust, the text reads, "The controlling interest of 51% reverts immediately to the direct lineage of Eleanor Nolan, specifically Harper Nolan, provided she can demonstrate the breach of fiduciary duty and is willing to assume the role of active chairperson. I stare at the words. 51%. If this document is valid, and it looks like it was notarized by a judge who is now a senator, then my father does not own the 70% he just tried to give to Logan. He owns less than half. He cannot give away what isn't his. The transfer he signed yesterday, it is void. The $90 million empire? It belongs to the ghost in this box. And now, it belongs to me. I look back at the letter for the final paragraph. I hope you never have to use this. Harper, I hope your father protects you. But if you are holding this paper, it means he chose someone else over you. It means he let his vanity eclipse his duty to his child. If that is the case, listen to me. You do not owe him your silence. You do not owe him your sacrifice. You cannot set yourself on fire just to keep him warm. Take back what we built. It was never his to give away. Love, Mom. I sit in the silence of the storage unit for a long time. The dust motes dance in the single beam of light coming from the hallway. For years, I believed them. I believed I was the charity case. I believed I was the employee, the subordinate, the one who had to earn her keep by taking punches and fixing spreadsheets. I was wrong. I am not the employee, I am the owner. And Logan? Logan is trespassing. I carefully place the papers back into the envelope. I do not feel sad anymore. The grief has crystallized into something cold and hard and incredibly sharp. I stand up and brush the dust off my knees. I grab the box. I walk out to my car. I do not drive home. I do not drive to the office. I drive straight to the financial district, to the office of Elena Brooks. She is the only lawyer in town who hates my father's firm almost as much as I do right now. She is known as a shark in a silk suit. I am going to hire her. I check the time on the dashboard. I have 48 hours left of my 72-hour deadline. Marissa thinks she won. She thinks I am at home crying over my $300,000 severance check. She thinks she is planning a coronation for her son. She has no idea that I just found the crown. And I am not just coming to the party. I am coming to evict the tenants. Harborline Legal Group does not look like a traditional law firm. There is no mahogany paneling, no oil paintings of dead founders, and definitely no smell of old scotch. The office is all chrome, glass, and aggressive minimalism. It looks like a place where contracts go to die. I am sitting across from Elena Brooks, in Silver Point. They call her the Barracuda. She is 60, with silver hair cut in a bob so sharp it could cut glass, and she is wearing a suit that probably costs more than the settlement check my father just offered me. She has been reading the documents from my mother's box for 10 minutes without saying a word. The silence is heavy, broken only by the sound of pages turning and the distant hum of the city 20 floors below. Finally, she stops. She places her reading glasses on the desk with a deliberate click. She looks at me, and her eyes, usually terrifyingly cold, are wide with something that looks like professional awe. "Harper," she says, her voice low, "do you have any idea what you are sitting on?" I take a breath. I think I do. It means my mother owned half the company. Elena laughs, a dry, sharp sound. "Noah, honey, it does not just mean she owned half. It means she owned the foundation. This isn't just a share certificate. This is a nuclear warhead with a timer attached." She taps the yellowed paper with a manicured fingernail. According to this founding agreement, Harperstone Capital provided the initial liquidity for Nolan Crest. But here is the kicker. It was structured as a conditional loan that converted to equity only if specific ethical bylaws were maintained. Your father didn't just inherit her shares when she died. He inherited the stewardship of them. She leans forward. And this addendum? The one about the transfer of control in case of ethical negligence? It is legally binding. It was notarized by Judge Henderson before he became a senator. If we can prove that the current leadership, meaning your father, or anyone he appoints, has violated the fiduciary duty to the original capital provider, the shares do not go to the estate. They revert to the Harperstone beneficiary. "That is me," I say. "That is you," she confirms. "If we trigger this, You do not just get a seat at the table. You own the table. She stands up and walks to the window, looking out at the skyline where the Nolan Crest Tower stands like a middle finger to the rest of the city. You know, she says, turning back to me, I have a history with your stepmother. I blink. You do? Elena smiles, but it is not a nice smile. It is the smile of a hunter remembering a particularly annoying prey. About 8 years ago, before you came back to save the company, Marissa tried to strong-arm a small electrical contractor into accepting liability for a wiring fault in one of your hotels. She tried to bury him in paperwork so he would take the fall for her budget cuts. I represented the contractor. Did you win? I ask. Elena picks up a pen and twirls it. I destroyed her, but I learned how she operates. She plays dirty. Harper, she fabricates emails. She intimidates witnesses. She uses NDA agreements as weapons. She thrives in the gray areas where decent people are afraid to go. She looks at the stack of papers again. But this pulls her out of the gray and into the blinding light of federal fraud. If your father concealed the existence of Harperstone Capital during previous audits or loan applications, which he almost certainly did to simplify things, then he has been operating on a lie for decades. She sits back down and locks eyes with me. So, we have 2 options. Option A is the scorched earth approach. We file a lawsuit tomorrow morning. We make these documents public. The SEC will freeze Nolan Crest's assets by lunch. The stock price will tank. Your father will be investigated for securities fraud. Marissa and Logan will be pariahs. The company will likely collapse, but you will walk away with whatever is left of the liquidation. I feel a cold knot in my stomach. I think of the receptionist who has worked there for 20 years. I think of the construction crews, the architects, the people I spent 3 years fighting to save. And option B, I ask? Option B is the surgical strike. Elena says, we use this as leverage. We do not destroy the company. We force a restructuring. We prove that the conditions for the reversion of shares have been met, specifically, that appointing Logan constitutes negligence and abuse of assets. We force them to the negotiating table, but this time, you are holding a gun, and they are holding a plastic spoon. I do not want to destroy Nolan Crest, I say firmly. I built the damn thing back up. I do not want to burn it down just to hurt them. Elena nods, looking approved. Good. Emotional vengeance is expensive. Strategic dominance is profitable. She pulls the severance package, the one Dad tried to force me to sign, toward her. She flips to the non-compete clause. God, this is sloppy, she mutters, scanning the text. Look at this. They are basing the non-compete on the premise that you were a standard employee with access to trade secrets. But if you are the beneficiary of Harperstone, you are not an employee. You are a founding partner. She grabs a red pen and slashes a thick line through the page. This entire contract is void because it is based on a fraudulent premise. They cannot restrict you from the industry because, technically, you are the industry. They omitted your status as a shareholder. That is material misrepresentation. She looks up at me, her eyes gleaming. Here is the plan. We have 48 hours left on your dad's deadline. We are not going to file a suit yet. We are going to build a dossier. A dossier? I need proof. Harper, the letter is great, but it is old. To trigger the ethical negligence clause, I need recent, concrete evidence that Logan and Marissa are unfit to run the company. I need proof of the shell companies. I need proof of the safety violations. I need proof that appointing Logan is not just a bad business decision, but a breach of fiduciary duty to the original investor, your mother. I have files, I say, tapping my bag. I downloaded the internal ledgers before I left. I have the emails where Marissa approves payments to her friends. I have the safety reports Logan ignored. Elena's eyebrows shoot up. You do? I told you, I say. I was the one fixing their messes. I kept receipts. Elena leans back and lets out a low whistle. Remind me never to piss you off, Harper. She opens her laptop and starts typing furiously. Okay, here's the timeline. You are going to go back to them on Monday, but not to the office. Is there a public event coming up? A board meeting? A gala? There is a gala tonight, I say. The Future of Leadership Gala. They are introducing Logan to the shareholders and the press. Elena stops typing. She looks at me, and a slow, terrifying grin spreads across her face. Tonight? That is poetic. She spins her laptop around to show me a draft of a letter. We are going to serve them tonight, not with a lawsuit, but with a notice of claim regarding Harperstone Capital. We will time it perfectly. I will have my team draft a formal complaint to the State Securities Board, but we won't file it until the exact moment you give the signal. She looks at me intensely. But Harper, you need to be ready. When we drop this, your father is going to feel it. He is going to look at you, and he is going to play the victim. He is going to say you are betraying the family. I look at the floor. That is the one thing that still stings. What if he chooses them? I ask quietly. What if, even after seeing the proof that they are stealing from him, even after knowing my mother paid for his success, what if he still stands by Logan? Elena stops writing. She softens, just for a second. She reaches across the desk and places her hand over mine. It is a rare gesture of comfort from a woman made of iron. Then you stop looking at him as your father. She says, in that moment, he ceases to be the man who raised you. He becomes a CEO who breached a contract with a dead partner. She squeezes my hand, then pulls back, her business mask sliding back into place. If he chooses the people who are bleeding him dry over the daughter who saved his life, then he deserves to lose his company. You are not the one betraying him. Harper, he betrayed the agreement he made with your mother 30 years ago. You are just the collections agent. I nod. She is right. The sentimentality has to go. It is a weakness. I stand up. Okay, I say. What do I need to do? Elena hands me a flash drive. Upload everything you have to this. The ledger, the emails, the safety reports. My team will process it and have a forensic accounting summary ready by 6 o'clock. She walks me to the door. Wear something nice tonight. Harper, she says, if you are going to execute a hostile takeover of your own family, you should look like you own the place. I walk out of her office and into the elevator. My heart is beating fast, but it is a steady rhythm. I check my phone. I have a message from Miguel, the accountant I used to work with. Be careful. Marissa is asking it to scrub the servers. She knows you took something. I smile at the screen. Let her scrub. It is too late. The data is already in the hands of the Barracuda. I step out into the street. The sun is setting over Silver Point, painting the sky in shades of bruised purple and angry orange. I have a gala to attend, and I have a $90 million bomb to deliver. I walk back into the glass monolith of Nolan Crest Holdings at 4 in the afternoon. My security badge still works. That is their first mistake. They are so arrogant, so convinced of my total defeat, that they did not even bother to deactivate my clearance until the official termination date on Monday. I told the front desk I was there to pack my personal effects. Technically, it is true. I am just packing a different kind of baggage. The office is buzzing with the chaotic energy of the pre-gala countdown. Junior associates are running around with garment bags and clipboards. Nobody pays attention to the disgraced daughter walking toward the server room. I slip into my old office, which has already been half cleared for Logan's new meditation space, and I log in. I am not looking for current files. I am looking for ghosts. I plug in the flash drive Elena gave me. My fingers fly across the keyboard. I access the backup archives, the deep storage that Marissa thinks is deleted every 90 days. It is not. I wrote the retention protocol myself 3 years ago. Nothing gets deleted here. It just gets buried. I start pulling the raw data. Vendor payments, consulting contracts, miscellaneous expenses. Harper? I freeze. I turn around. Standing in the doorway is Miguel Hart, the senior accountant. Miguel is a man who looks like he has been carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders for a decade. His hairline has receded significantly since Marissa took over as CFO. I thought you left, he says softly. He closes the door behind him. I am just getting some personal photos. Miguel, I lie. He looks at the screen. He sees the download progress bar. He sees the file names. Vendor audit 2023.xlsx. He does not call security. He walks over to the desk, reaches into his pocket, and pulls out a generic black USB drive. Marissa yells at me every Tuesday because the numbers do not add up, Miguel says, his voice shaking slightly. She calls me incompetent. She tells me to make it work, or she will ensure I never work in this state again. He places the drive on the desk. I am not incompetent, Harper. I am just honest, and I made a copy. I look at him, stunned. What is this? It is the parallel books, he whispers. The real ones, not the ones we send to the IRS. This shows where the money actually goes. The consulting firm in the Caymans? It belongs to her brother. The design retainer for the new lobby? It goes to a shell company registered to her maiden name. He pushes the drive toward me. Burn her, he says. I nod. Thank you. Miguel. He turns and walks out before I can say anything else. I add his drive to my collection. I finish the download and head for the elevators. I need to get this to Elena, but as I turn the corner near the executive suite, I run straight into Carly, the chief operating officer. Carly has always been Marissa's shadow, cold, efficient, and brutally loyal, or so I thought. I brace myself for a confrontation. I expect her to demand my badge. Going somewhere? She asks, blocking my path. I am leaving. Carly, you can tell your boss I'm gone. She looks at the bag over my shoulder. Then she looks at her phone, taps the screen, and holds it up. You might want this, she says. I look at the screen. It is an email chain. The subject line is compliance warning, internal. It is from Carly to Marissa, dated 2 years ago. Marissa, we cannot legally classify these personal trips as business development. The IRS will flag this. And underneath, Marissa's reply, fix it, or I will find a COO who understands creativity. Remember who signed your bonus check. Carly forwards the email to my personal address right in front of me. I kept every threat, Carly says, her face devoid of emotion. I knew one day the ship would sink. I just wanted to make sure I had a life raft. If you are going to take her down, Harper, do not miss. I stare at her. The woman I thought was a villain was just another hostage. I will not miss, I promise. I leave the building with my heart pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I drive straight to Elena's office. We spend the next 2 hours dissecting the data. It is worse than I thought. It is not just embezzlement, it is systemic parasitism. Elena projects a spreadsheet onto the wall. Look at this, she says, pointing to a recurring monthly payment of $5,000. It is labeled Executive Resilience Training. I recognize the vendor name. It is the gym where Marissa sent me. They did not just beat you. Harper, Elena says, her voice hard. The company paid for it. Your father signed the checks that paid for the people who bruised your ribs. They wrote off your abuse as a tax-deductible business expense. I feel sick. I feel the bile rise in my throat. They monetize my pain. There is more, Elena says gently. She opens a video file. It is grainy security footage. Time-stamped 4 years ago. It is the gym. I see myself in the ring, on my knees, heaving for breath. I see Marissa standing over me, shouting. And then, in the corner of the frame, the door opens. My father walks in. I stop breathing. In the video, Greg Nolan stands there. He watches Marissa kick my shin to make me stand up. He watches me stumble. He sees the tears on my face. He does not rush in. He does not stop it. He watches for 10 seconds, then he checks his watch, turns around, and walks back out the door. The silence in Elena's office is deafening. I stare at the screen. I always told myself he didn't know how bad it was. I told myself Marissa hid the violence from him. He knew. He saw it. And he walked away because he had a lunch reservation. I want to destroy him, I whisper. Put it in the file. Put it all in. I want the world to see him walking away. Elena pauses. She looks at me with that sharp, calculating gaze. Harper, listen to me. This video is nuclear, but if we release this to the public, it does not just prove negligence, it proves he is a monster. Good, I say, he is a monster. Yes, she agrees, but if you destroy his reputation to that extent, the stock price won't just dip, it will evaporate. The company will be worthless. If you want to take over Nolan Crest, you need there to be a Nolan Crest left to save. We use this in the boardroom. We show it to the directors. We threaten to release it. That is the leverage. But we do not put it on the news unless we have to. I struggle with the urge to burn it all down, but I nod. She is right. This is about power, not just revenge. Just then, my laptop pings. It is a new email. The sender is encrypted, a string of random numbers and letters. The subject line is blank. The body of the email has one sentence. Check the Westline Residential Project, Tower B, 17th floor. Attached is an audio file. I click play. The voice is unmistakable. It is Logan. He sounds bored. The recording ends. I look at Elena. Her face has gone pale. That is not just fraud, she says quietly. That is criminal negligence. If that building collapses, people die. I know the Westline project. It is the jewel of Logan's portfolio. It is fully occupied. Families live there. He used substandard concrete, I say, my voice trembling with rage, to save money for his bonus. This is it, Elena says. She starts packing the papers into a thick leather portfolio. This is the kill shot. The Harperstone Agreement talks about ethical negligence. This goes beyond that. This is a felony. Who sent it? I ask, looking at the anonymous email address. Elena shrugs. Does it matter? Someone who knows the truth? Maybe your Aunt Claire? Maybe that Inspector Logan mentioned? The point is, you have the smoking gun. I stand up. I smooth down my dress. I am wearing a black evening gown that looks like armor. It is sharp, tailored, and severe. I take the USB drive with the accounting fraud. I take the file with the gym video. And I take the audio recording of Logan gambling with human lives. I look at the dossier. It is thick. It is heavy. It weighs exactly $90 million. Are you ready? Elena asks. I think about my father turning his back on me in the gym. I think about my mother's letter. I think about the families sleeping on the 17th floor of the Westline Tower, unaware that the ceiling above them is held up by greed and cheap cement. I am not just ready. I say, I am overdue. We leave the office. The gala is starting in an hour. They are expecting a coronation. They are getting a funeral. The grand ballroom of the Silver Point Ritz-Carlton is designed to intimidate. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars hang from the ceiling, casting a golden fracturing light over 300 of the city's most influential people. The air smells of expensive perfume, truffle oil, and the specific, metallic scent of ambition. I am standing near the back, in the shadows of a massive floral arrangement of white lilies. I am not sitting at the family table tonight. That table is front and center, draped in gold cloth, occupied by my father. Marissa and Logan, they look like royalty. Marissa is wearing a red dress that screams victory. Logan is adjusting his cufflinks every 30 seconds, a nervous tic he has never managed to coach out of himself. I am wearing a black tuxedo suit, tailored so sharply it could cut skin. My hair is pulled back. I am not here as the daughter. I am not here as the employee. I am here as the executioner. 2 rows behind me, Elena Brooks sits with her junior associate. She catches my eye. She taps the face of her tablet once. It is a subtle signal. The legal filing is cued. The emails to the board of directors are drafted and set to a timer. The trap is primed. We are just waiting for the mouse to take the cheese. My father walks up to the podium. The room applauds. It is a warm, respectful sound. To them, he is Greg Nolan, the visionary builder, the man who shaped the skyline. They do not know he is standing on a foundation paid for by a dead woman he betrayed. Thank you, he says, his voice booming through the high-quality speakers. Thank you all for coming. Tonight is not just a celebration of Nolan Crest Holdings. It is a celebration of continuity, of legacy. He smiles at Logan. Logan puffs out his chest. Building a company is like raising a child, my father continues. Leaning into the microphone, it requires patience, it requires sacrifice, and sometimes it requires a hard hand. I feel a muscle in my jaw jump. We live in a world that wants to coddle the next generation, Greg says, nodding to the older men in the room who nod back in agreement. But I believe in a different approach. I believe that pressure creates diamonds. I believe that you have to push people to their breaking point to see what they are made of. He looks briefly toward the back of the room, as if scanning for me, but the lights blind him. My wife, Marissa, and I have spent the last few years preparing the next CEO, not by giving him an easy path, but by testing his mettle, by ensuring he is tough enough to lead. Tough. There is that word again. I watch Marissa smirk. She is sipping champagne, basking in the lie. She knows Logan has never been tested a day in his life. The only thing Logan has ever had to endure is a hangover. And so, Greg concludes, raising his voice for the crescendo, it is my distinct honor to introduce you to the future of Nolan Crest, a young man who has proven he has the steel to carry this legacy forward. Please welcome. This is the moment. Elena taps her screen. The side door of the ballroom swings open. It is not a dramatic slam. It is just a door opening. But the man who walks in is wearing a bright yellow high-visibility vest and carrying a red legal envelope. He looks out of place among the tuxedos and gowns, like a glitch in the Matrix. He walks straight toward the stage. Security moves to intercept him, but Elena has already arranged this. She flashes a badge from her seat. The security guard hesitates. That hesitation is all the courier needs. My father stops speaking. He frowns. The spotlight follows the courier as he climbs the stairs to the stage. "What is this?" Greg asks into the hot mic. "Excuse me, Mr. Nolan?" the courier says. His voice is not amplified, but in the sudden silence of the room, everyone hears him. "I have a priority legal delivery. It requires a signature of receipt immediately." "Not now," Greg hisses, trying to wave him away. "Can't you see we are in the middle of an event?" The courier does not budge. "I am afraid it is a notice of claim regarding the ownership of Nolan Crest Holdings. Sir," the courier says loudly, "federal regulations require immediate service." The room gasps. It is a collective intake of breath that sucks the oxygen out of the ballroom. "Ownership?" someone whispers near me. Greg turns pale. He looks at the red envelope. He looks at the audience. He realizes he is trapped. If he refuses to sign, he looks like he is running from the law. If he signs, he disrupts his own coronation. "Just give it here," Greg snaps. He snatches the clipboard. He signs aggressively, tearing the paper. The courier hands him the thick red envelope and walks off stage as quickly as he arrived. Greg looks at the envelope. He cannot help himself. He rips the tab open. He pulls out the top document. I see his eyes scan the header. I know exactly what it says. Notice of activation. Harperstone Capital, Blind Trust, Dissolution. I see his hands start to shake. It is subtle at first, just a tremor in the paper. But then it travels up his arms. He looks up. He looks terrified. Marissa is on her feet. She rushes to the stage, her heels clicking frantically. "Greg, put it away." She whispers loud enough for the front row to hear. "Put it in your pocket. Smile. Introduce Logan." But it is too late. Because at that exact second, a sound ripples through the room. Ping. Then another. Buzz. Chime. Ding. It starts at the VIP tables near the front, the tables where the board of directors and the major investors are sitting. Then it spreads to the press section, then to the general audience. Every phone in the room is lighting up at once. Elena has executed the blast. I watch Simon Vance, the chairman of the audit committee, pull his phone from his breast pocket. He puts on his reading glasses. He reads the email subject line. Urgent. Evidence of fiduciary breach and criminal negligence. Nolan Crest Holdings. I watch his face go from confusion to purple-faced rage. He looks at the attachment, the forensic accounting summary Miguel provided. Then he looks at the stage. Marissa is trying to pull the microphone away from Greg. Greg is staring at the document in his hand like it is a venomous snake. Logan is standing there, looking like a deer in the headlights, confused why nobody is clapping for him yet. Simon Vance stands up. His chair scrapes loudly against the floor. "Greg!" Simon bellows. He does not need a microphone. He has the voice of a man who controls $3 billion in assets. Greg looks up, startled. "Simon?" Greg stammers. "We can discuss this later." "We will discuss it now." Simon shouts, "I just received a file detailing a shadow company called Harperstone Capital, and a report that says you have been funneling company funds into your wife's personal accounts for 5 years. Is this true?" The murmurs in the room turn into a roar. The press photographers, who were bored 5 minutes ago, are now rushing the stage, flashes exploding like strobe lights. "Harperstone?" another board member asks, standing up. "Eleanor's old fund? I thought that was dissolved decades ago." "It was never dissolved," Simon yells, waving his phone. "According to this, it holds 51% of the voting stock. Greg, have you been operating without a majority mandate?" Marissa grabs the mic. "This is a hack," she screeches, her voice cracking. "Someone has hacked the system. This is slander. Security." But nobody moves. The waiters have stopped serving. The violinists have lowered their bows. This is my cue. I step out from the shadows of the lilies. I button my jacket. I walk down the center aisle. The crowd parts for me. They sense the momentum. They see a woman walking with the kind of purpose that burns holes in the floor. "I am not hacking anything. Marissa," I say. My voice is not amplified, but I project it the way I learned to project during those endless presentations she made me do without notes. Heads turn. 300 pairs of eyes lock onto me. "Harper?" Dad says. He sounds small. He sounds like an old man. I keep walking until I'm standing right in front of the stage. I do not climb up. I look up at them. It is a powerful angle. They are on the stage. But I am the one holding the court. Someone hands me a microphone. It is the event coordinator. A young woman who looks terrified but seemingly realizes that I am the only one who is making sense. I take the mic. "My name is Harper Nolan." I say to the room. The cameras swivel toward me. I see the red recording lights of a dozen smartphones pointed at my face. "For years, you have been told that I am just the assistant, the helper, the one who needed to be toughening up." I look at my father. But the document my father is holding right now tells a different story. That document proves that the majority shareholder of Nolan Crest Holdings was never Greg Nolan. It was my mother, Eleanor, and she left a specific instruction. If her capital was ever used to abuse the company or its employees, the ownership reverts to her heir. I pull the thick dossier from under my arm. I lift it up so everyone can see. "This is not a hack," I say calmly. "This is the receipt." I turn to the board members. "Mr. Vance, in this file, you will find proof that the Westline residential tower, the project Logan is supposed to be famous for, was built with concrete that is 30% below safety grade. You will hear an audio recording of Logan authorizing that decision to save money for his own bonus." Gasps. Horror. People are looking at Logan with disgust. Logan is shaking his head, mouthing, "No, no," but he is backing away from the edge of the stage. "You will also find," I continue, relentlessly, "video evidence of company funds being used to pay for personal abuse disguised as corporate training. You will find wire transfers to shell companies owned by Marissa Cole." I look at Marissa. Her face is a mask of crumbling plaster. She looks ready to vomit. "We are not here to witness a succession," I say, my voice dropping to a register that vibrates through the room. "We are here to witness a foreclosure." I look straight into the camera of the nearest reporter. My father said he wanted to see who was tough enough to lead. He said pressure makes diamonds. Well, 72 hours ago, he tried to pressure me into silence. I pause. The room is so quiet. I can hear the hum of the video projectors. I did not break. Dad, I just stopped protecting you. I drop the dossier on the edge of the stage. It lands with a heavy final thud. The flashbulbs go wild. It is a blinding storm of light. I see questions being shouted. I see Simon Vance signaling to the other board members to surround the stage. I see police officers, real ones, not private security, entering the back of the ballroom, likely called by Elena's team regarding the Westline safety violations. My father sinks into a chair on the stage, the red envelope still clutched in his hand. He looks at me, and for the first time in his life, he looks at me with fear. I do not smile. I do not gloat. I just turn around and walk back up the aisle. Behind me, the chaos erupts. The gala has turned into a crime scene, and I am the only one walking away clean. The executive suite on the 45th floor is soundproof. It is designed to keep the noise of the city out, but tonight, it feels like it is designed to keep the screams inside. We have been moved here by the hotel security and the legal counsel for the board of directors. The gala is effectively over, dissolved into a frenzy of gossip and police statements downstairs. Up here, the air is recycled and freezing. The room is arranged like a battlefield. On one side of the long glass table sits my father, Marissa, and Logan. They look like survivors of a shipwreck, disheveled, pale, and shivering with shock. On the other side sits Elena, her associate, and me. At the head of the table is Simon Vance and 2 other board members. They are the judges. Elena does not waste time with pleasantries. She connects her laptop to the room's main display. A spreadsheet appears. It is the forensic accounting summary Miguel gave me. It is a grid of red numbers that look like fresh wounds. Let us look at the consulting fees, Elena says, her voice calm and clinical. Over the last 5 years, Nolan Crest has paid $4 million to a firm called Apex Strategic Solutions for leadership development. She clicks a key. A document appears. Apex is registered in the Cayman Islands. Its primary beneficiary is not a consultant. It is Julian Cole, Marissa's brother. Marissa flinches. She grips her clutch so hard her knuckles are white. That is a legitimate vendor, she snaps. Julian provided. Critical market analysis. There are no reports, Elena counters smoothly. We check the server. $4 million for 0 pages of analysis. That is not consulting. Marissa, that is embezzlement. Logan slams his hand on the table. It is a weak, petulant gesture. This is ridiculous, he shouts. You are criminalizing standard tax optimization strategies. Every company does this. You are just spinning this to make us look bad because Harper is bitter. He points a shaking finger at me. This is emotional terrorism. Harper, you could not handle the fact that Dad picked me, so you are burning the house down. You are hysterical. I do not blink. I do not look at him. I keep my eyes on Simon Vance. Mr. Vance, I say quietly, is the structural integrity of the Westline Tower also a matter of tax optimization? Simon looks at Logan. His expression is one of pure disgust. We listen to the audio file. Logan, Simon says, his voice is heavy with disappointment. You explicitly authorized the use of grade C concrete on a load-bearing floor. That is not a tax strategy. That is a criminal act. If we do not self-report this to the city inspectors by tomorrow morning, every single person in this room could go to prison for negligence. Logan opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. The arrogance drains out of him, leaving just a terrified boy in an expensive suit. My father is sitting perfectly still. He is staring at the Harperstone document that is lying in the center of the table. He looks like a man trying to solve a puzzle that has no solution. Greg, Simon says, turning to him, you have a choice. Dad looks up. His eyes are bloodshot. If you deny the Harperstone agreement, Simon continues, then you are admitting that you defrauded your original investor, your late wife, and hid a majority stakeholder from this board for 30 years. That is securities fraud. Simon leans forward. But if you admit the agreement is valid, Then you admit that you have breached the ethical clause by allowing your family to loot the company. Either way, Greg, you are done as CEO. The only question is whether you walk out of here or get carried out in handcuffs. The silence that follows is heavy enough to crush bones. Elena slides a document across the glass table. It stops right in front of my father. This is a settlement offer, Elena says. Option A. You accept an immediate, independent audit. Marissa and Logan are suspended from all duties effective tonight, pending the investigation. Harper is appointed as the interim executive chair with veto power over all financial decisions to stabilize the stock price. And option B? Marissa asks, her voice trembling with rage. Option B is that we leave this room, hand the full unredacted dossier to the district attorney, and file a class action lawsuit on behalf of the minority shareholders. Marissa laughs. It is a high, frantic sound. You cannot do that, she spits. You do not have the votes. Even with this Harperstone fairy tale, you need the board's approval to remove a sitting CEO without a shareholder meeting. You are bluffing. The door to the suite opens. Every head turns. Standing there is a woman in a gray wool coat, holding a wet umbrella. She looks like a librarian, unassuming and quiet. But when she walks into the room, the temperature seems to drop another 10 degrees. It is my Aunt Claire. I thought she was just the eccentric relative who sent me birthday cards and kept to herself. I thought she was passive. I was wrong. Claire? Dad asks, confused. What are you doing here? Claire walks to the table. She does not look at Dad. She looks at me and gives a small, firm nod. I am here representing the Liberty Trust, Claire says. Her voice is clear and steady. Marissa frowns. The Liberty Trust? That is the quiet fund that holds 12% of the outstanding shares. We have never met their representative. You never met them because I did not want to meet you. Marissa, Claire says. She places a proxy card on the table. My sister, Eleanor, knew that Greg might lose his way. She asked me to hold the minority stake as a failsafe. For 20 years, I have watched you turn her legacy into a piggy bank for your vanity projects. Claire turns to Simon Vance. The Liberty Trust votes with Harperstone Capital, she declares. That gives Harper a controlling majority of 63%. We do not need a shareholder meeting. We have the votes right here. The color drains from Marissa's face. The math is undeniable. They are checkmated. Dad looks at Claire, his mouth slightly open. You have been watching us this whole time? I have been watching you let that woman destroy our daughter. Greg, Claire says, her voice shaking with suppressed anger. I kept silent because I promised Eleanor I would let you try to be a father. But tonight you proved you are just a puppet. Marissa stands up so abruptly her chair tips over. I am not a destroyer, she screams. She loses all composure, the polished executive mask shattering completely. I did what had to be done. She points at me, her finger shaking. Look at her. Look at how efficient she is. Do you think she would be this sharp if I had coddled her? No. She was a weak, soft-hearted little girl who cried over dead birds. I had to break that out of her. The room goes deadly silent. Elena quietly reaches out and taps a button on her phone. The recording light glows red. We needed a workhorse, Marissa yells, her eyes wide and manic. Logan is the face, yes, but we needed someone to do the grunt work, to stay until 3 a.m, to fix the numbers. If I hadn't pushed her, if I hadn't made her tough, she would have quit years ago. She turns to Greg, looking for validation. I did this for us. Greg, those training sessions? The insults? It was to strip away her ego so she would just work. And it worked, didn't it? Look at the millions she saved us. She stops, panting, realizing too late that the room is staring at her in horror. She just admitted it. It was never about making me better. It was about breaking me into a compliant tool. My father is looking at Marissa. He looks like he is seeing a stranger. You broke her on purpose? Dad whispers. Marissa freezes. She realizes her mistake. Greg, honey, I was just... You told me it was character building. Dad says, his voice cracking. You told me she needed confidence, but you were just conditioning her? Like an animal? Marissa tries to reach for him, but he flinches away. I let you do it, he says, horror dawning on his face. He looks at me. Harper, I let her do it. I told you she was helping you. I sit there, perfectly still. I do not feel triumphant. I feel hollow, but it is a clean kind of hollow. The confusion of my childhood is gone. The lie is dead. I look at Elena. She nods. She has the confession on tape. I stand up. I walk over to the window, looking out at the city lights. I take a deep breath, composing myself. I will not scream. I will not cry. I will be exactly what they made me, cold, efficient, and unyielding. I turn back to the table. We are done discussing the past, I say. My voice is devoid of emotion. I look at my father. You asked if I would forgive you if you signed the agreement. I say, but we are past forgiveness. Dad, tonight is not about feelings. It is about liability. I point to the settlement papers Elena put on the table. Here are the terms. Marissa and Logan resign immediately. They surrender their company phones and laptops before they leave this building. They agree to a full repayment plan for the embezzled funds, or we file criminal charges for grand larceny. And you? Dad asks. He looks broken. He looks old. You resign as CEO. I say, you stay on the board as a non-executive chairman. No salary, no voting power. You are a figurehead, nothing more. And if I refuse? He asks weakly. Then I use my 63% to fire you for cause, I say, and I release the video of you watching Marissa kick me in the ribs while you checked your watch. Greg closes his eyes. He knows I will do it. He knows because he is the one who told me that the world has no place for soft people. Give me the pen, he whispers. Marissa lunges for the pen. No, Greg, do not sign it. We can fight this. We can destroy her reputation. I will tell the press she is unstable. Elena clears her throat. She holds up her phone. I have you on tape admitting to systemic abuse and fraud. Marissa, Elena says pleasantly, and I have the Westline audio. If you want to go to war, I will make sure your next residence is a federal prison cell. Marissa stops. She looks at Logan, who is weeping silently into his hands. She looks at Greg, who won't even look at her. She sinks back into her chair, defeated. Greg takes the pen. His hand is shaking, but he presses it to the paper. The scratching sound of the nib is the only noise in the room. He signs. He pushes the paper across the glass to me. He looks up, and there are tears in his eyes. I thought, he stammers, all those years. I really thought I was helping you. I thought I was making you strong. I pick up the paper. I check the signature. It is valid. The empire is mine. I look at him one last time. You did make me strong. Dad, I say. I put the contract in my folder. You taught me that the only person who will ever protect me is me. And now, I am protecting this company from you. I turn to Elena and Claire. Let us get to work. We have a press release to issue. I walk out of the conference room. I do not look back at the family I just fired. I have a company to run. The silence in the executive suite is absolute. It is the kind of silence that usually follows a gunshot, ringing and heavy. Elena slides the final document across the glass table. It stops directly in front of my father. It is not a negotiation draft. It is a surrender treaty. The terms are non-negotiable, Elena says, her voice cutting through the dead air. Marissa Cole and Logan Cole Nolan resign from all executive and board positions effective immediately. They surrender all company-issued devices before leaving the premises. They agree to a full forensic audit of their personal accounts to facilitate the restitution of the $4 million embezzled via the Cayman shell companies. Marissa makes a noise in her throat, a strangled sound of protest, but she does not speak. She knows Elena has her finger on the button that sends the Westline audio recording to the district attorney. And Greg? Simon Vance asks. He looks tired. The board members look like they have aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. They just want this to be over. They want to go home and pray the stock price does not crash in the morning. Greg Nolan resigns as CEO. Elena continues. He will retain a seat on the board as a non-executive chairman. He will receive no salary. He will have no voting rights. His role is strictly advisory, and he serves at the pleasure of the majority shareholder. That shareholder is me. I watch my father. He is staring at the paper. His hands are resting on the table, palms down. They look old. For the first time, I notice the age spots on his skin, the tremor in his fingers. The titan of industry is gone. All that is left is a man who bet on the wrong horse and lost everything. One by one, the board members nod. They are relieved. This deal saves them from a criminal investigation. It saves the company from immediate dissolution. It is a lifeline, and they grab it with both hands. Only my father hesitates. He picks up the pen. It is a heavy Mont Blanc, the same one he used to sign the contracts that built this city. He hovers the nib over the signature line. Then he looks up at me. His eyes are wet. The arrogance is gone, replaced by a desperate, childlike pleading. "Harper," he says softly. I look back at him. I do not look away. "If I sign this," he asks, his voice trembling, "if I do this, do I get my daughter back? Will you forgive me?" The room holds its breath. Marissa looks at him with contempt. Logan looks at the floor. Elena watches me, her face impassive. I feel a pang in my chest. It is an old instinct, the desire to comfort him, to tell him it is going to be okay. It is the ghost of the little girl who just wanted her dad to be proud of her. But I am not that little girl anymore. I killed her in the boxing ring so I could survive. I lean forward. This agreement does not buy forgiveness. Dad, I say, my voice is steady, calm, and final. It is not a transaction. This is just the first step in you taking responsibility for the damage you caused. You do not get a reward for finally doing the right thing. He flinches as if I slapped him. He looks down at the paper. He realizes there is no way out. There is no hug waiting for him at the end of this meeting. There is only the cold reality of his choices. He presses the pen to the paper. Scritch, scratch. The sound is loud in the quiet room. It sounds like a fabric tearing. With that signature, he severs the illusion he has hidden behind for decades. He admits that his tough love was just negligence. He admits that he failed me. He caps the pen and pushes the document toward Elena. "It is done," he whispers. Simon Vance clears his throat. He looks at me with a newfound respect, bordering on fear. "Harper," he says, "with Greg stepping down and the immediate dismissal of the current executive team, the board would like to formally offer you the position of CEO of Nolan Crest Holdings. You have the shares. You have the skill. You saved us once before. It is only right." Marissa looks up, her eyes narrowing. She expects me to jump at it. She expects me to gloat, to take the crown she wanted for her son. I stand up. I smooth the lapel of my tuxedo jacket. "No," I say. Simon blinks. "Excuse me?" "I am not accepting the position of CEO." I say. I walk to the window. The rain has started to fall outside, streaking the glass with silver tears. "I do not want to run this company," I continue, turning back to face them. "This company is diseased. It is built on rot. I have no interest in spending the next 10 years fixing a culture that celebrated my abuse." Then, "What do you want?" Simon asks, confused. "You hold the majority shares." "I want a clean slate," I say. I look at Elena. She hands me a folder. "I will use my voting power as the Harperstone representative to appoint an interim CEO, an outsider with a clean record," I announce, "and my first directive to the new leadership will be the immediate liquidation of the Westline residential project and the hotel chain." Logan gasps. "You cannot sell Westline. That is my legacy." "Your legacy is a safety hazard," I snap. "We are selling the assets to pay for the repairs. We are going to make those buildings safe, and then we are going to sell them." "And the proceeds?" Simon asks. 50% of the proceeds from the liquidation will go back into the company to stabilize the stock," I say, The other 50% will be used to establish the Eleanor Nolan Foundation. I look at my father. He goes pale at the mention of my mother's name. The foundation will have 2 mandates. I say, first, it will provide legal and financial support to the contractors and small business owners that this family bullied and stiffed over the last decade. We are going to pay them back, every cent, with interest. Marissa looks like she's going to be sick. And second, I continue, the foundation will support survivors of workplace abuse and financial coercion. We are going to turn the money you stole into a shield for the people you tried to break. There is a long silence. It is the silence of a new order being established. As for me, I say, picking up my clutch, I am done with Nolan Crest. I am launching my own firm next week, Northlight Urban Design. I look at Simon. We will be a separate entity. We might partner with Nolan Crest on specific projects, but only if you meet my transparency standards. If I see one shell company, one cut corner, one instance of nepotism, I will use my majority stake to freeze your operations and dissolve the board. Do I make myself clear? Simon nods rapidly. Crystal clear, Ms. Nolan. I turn to leave. Wait, Marissa says. Her voice is low, venomous. She stands up. She is trembling, but she is trying to muster one last attack. You think you can just walk away and be the hero? She hisses. I know things about you. Harper, I know about the time you had a breakdown in college. I know about the anxiety medication. If you humiliate me, I will go to the press. I will tell them the new owner of Nolan Crest is mentally unstable. I will ruin your new company before it even starts. I stop. I look at her. She is pathetic. She is a snake with no fangs left. I do not have to say a word. Elena simply smiles. She picks up her phone. She taps the screen. She connects it to the room speakers via Bluetooth. A voice fills the room. It is Marissa's voice. Clear, arrogant. I need her to run the operations. Logan cannot read a balance sheet to save his life. I am just squeezing the juice out of the lemon before I throw the rind away. All those training sessions, the insults, it was to strip away her ego. Elena pauses the recording. Go ahead. Marissa, Elena says cheerfully, call the press. I'm sure they would love to hear your confession in high definition. We can play the part where you admit to psychological torture, or the part where you call your own son an idiot. Which one do you prefer? Marissa opens her mouth, then closes it. She sinks back into her chair, defeated. She is silent. Finally, permanently silent. I walk to the door. Harper, wait. It is my father. He is standing up. He looks frail. He looks like a man who has just woken up from a long coma to find the world has moved on without him. He walks toward me, but he stops a few feet away. He knows he has lost the right to come closer. All those years, he says, his voice raspy. I told myself I was doing the right thing. I thought the world was hard. I thought if I made you hard, you would be safe. I thought I was helping you. I look at him. I see the tragedy of him. He is a man who was so afraid of weakness that he destroyed the only strength he had. You did help me, Dad, I say. He looks up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. You helped me understand something very important. I say, you taught me that I will never, ever let anyone call neglect love again. I turn the handle. Goodbye, Dad. I walk out. I walk through the silent outer office. I step into the elevator. I ride it down 45 floors. When the doors open, the cool night air hits my face. It is raining in Silver Point. A light, steady drizzle that makes the neon lights of the city reflect on the pavement. I step out of the building. I do not have an umbrella. I do not care. The rain feels good. It feels like it is washing away the dust of the warehouse, the stale air of the boardroom, the sweat of the boxing ring. My phone buzzes in my pocket, then again, and again. It is a continuous vibration against my hip. I pull it out. The screen is lit up with notifications. There is an email from Miguel. I heard the news. Count me in for Northlight. I quit 10 minutes ago. There is a text from Carly. I am drafting my resignation. Where do I send my resume? There are emails from 3 of the major investors who were at the gala. They do not want to work with Nolan Crest. They want to know when Northlight is opening for business. And then I see the video. Someone uploaded the confrontation at the gala. It has been viewed 2 million times in an hour. The comments are scrolling so fast I cannot read them. Team Harper, burn it down. Nolan Crest over. I take a deep breath. I fill my lungs with the scent of rain and ozone and freedom. I hold my phone up. I switch to the camera. I press record. I look into the lens. My hair is wet. My makeup is probably smudged. I do not care. I have never looked more like myself. Hey, everyone, I say. I am standing in the rain outside the building that used to define my worth. I pause. For 10 years, I was told that toughness meant taking a beating. I was told that love meant endurance. I was told that if I just swallowed enough pain, I would eventually earn a seat at the table. I shake my head. They were wrong. Real toughness is not about how much you can endure. Real toughness is having the courage to look at the people who raised you, the people who claim to love you, and saying, no more. I smile. It is a real smile. It is about realizing that you do not need their table. You can build your own, and you can build it with people who respect you, not people who want to break you. I wipe a raindrop from my cheek. My name is Harper Nolan. I just walked away from $90 million and a family legacy, and I have never felt richer. I press stop. I press upload. The file sends. I put the phone in my pocket. I start walking down the street, into the dark, wet night. I do not know exactly what tomorrow looks like, but for the first time in my life, I know exactly who is designing it. Me. Thank you so much for listening to my story. If you enjoyed watching the Nolan Empire crumble as much as I enjoyed bringing it down, please let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I love seeing how far this story travels. Make sure to subscribe to the Lila Revenge Stories channel. Smash that like button and hit the hype button so we can keep sharing stories about people taking back their power.